G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to be discussing a couple of points that were made in a Q&A which was done by one of the devs, Vyacheslav Bulyanikov. I probably butchered that, but everyone calls him Slava, so I'm just going to call him Slava. Anyway, these Q&As are really good actually. Having the opportunity to understand what the developers might be going through in their thought process or thereby lack of is actually really good because that means extra communication. And that is one of the things that I've been striving for, or at least pushing for, with the War Thunder community. We need more communication, and having more communication obviously means that we are able to sort of break down what Gaijin might be thinking, and it also gives us an extra opportunity to discuss things, and an extra opportunity to see if Gaijin is actually looking for feedback and giving said feedback. Feedback is one of those things that always makes a game good, and that's one of the things that we need to continuously push. Now, naturally, when I saw this Q&A, I was pretty pissed off. It's one of those Q&As where they kind of give you not quite non-answers, but just sort of answers that really demonstrate a significant disconnect between Gaijin and their ability to play and balance the game. Now, I've always said this, but statistics are a really poor way of balancing a vehicle. And in fact, balancing anything. You look at Siege, you look at League of Legends, you look at Counter-Strike. It doesn't matter what game you play or what game you know and love. It doesn't make sense to entirely balance off statistics. Now, this is really apparent in War Thunder. And we'll get into this in a minute, but let's go over the first question. Basically, it says the F104A and C models were basically the king of 9.7, then they got moved to 10.0, and then at the same time, they removed the Lightning down to 9.7. So it now basically faces 8.7 to 9.7s, which absolutely outclasses them. And they asked if they could reconsider the move back to 10.0. And basically, Gaijin said, no, we've made a good decision. The statistics were, and I quote, depressingly low. Now, here's the thing. The Lightning was a crap aircraft at 10.0. Moving it to 9.7, however, made it ridiculously overpowered. And we all know that it is better for a single plane to be underpowered, than for an entire battle rating range to suffer, because at the end of the day, I suppose the common good, if you will, is reduced by, say, the Lightning going from 10.0 to 9.7. Likely, on the other side of that coin, the F104 going from 9.7 to 10.0 was a massive increase in common good. However, the Lightning coming back down basically undoes that. So, Gaijin have basically said, because of the statistics and the efficiency of the aircraft in game, the F104 was over and the Lightning was under. So let's switch them and pretend that we won't get the same results. This just demonstrates again that Gaijin doesn't really play their game. The F104 was good because it was ridiculously fast and had ridiculously good weapons. The Lightning has the same. The Lightning has exactly the same issue. Of course, the Lightning is more of a bus. Of course, the Lightning's guns are a little bit harder to aim, but they have two missiles with 16G overloads and really, really decent range. So if you want to hunt down the Vautours, it's really good for that. If you want to hunt down Hunters, it will do that fairly well. Anything with an afterburner, it will absolutely chew to death. However, the Lightning F6 suffers in one major area. It's fat and bulky. The Lightning the F104 at least seems sleek and a bit more manageable in terms of its control surfaces. It's not as much of a whale. However, that doesn't really change anything because the Lightning still blitzes everybody off the runway all the way to 10,000 meters. There's a clip that I recorded about a month and a half ago where I simply could not catch this Lightning in my F100. Now, the F100, the French one at least, is the same battle rating. It's literally, supposedly, it is an absolute equivalent. Now, I think they're close on that. I think the Lightning is ever so slightly better simply because it just has the raw performance. But that is such a slight change, yet at the same battle rating, the Lightning just absolutely outclasses the F100 in terms of its altitude performance, its acceleration, its just climb rate. It absolutely blitzes it. So if a Lightning wants to go to space, the Lightning can do so with impunity. And whilst the F100 does have 4 AIM-9Bs, or at least the French and the Chinese ones, it's not really a guaranteed kill against the Lightning because the Lightning has so much energy and speed to pull out of the way of these missiles. So the Lightning can basically run around with impunity against other 9.7s. There is nothing at that battle rating to hold the Lightning back apart from other Lightnings. The J32B simply doesn't cut it. What else is there? I can't think of anything else. I don't really think there's anything else. Hunter FGA-9, G91YS. These planes piddle in comparison to the Lightning. The Lightning simply outclasses other 9.7s by raw performance. In the statistics department, of course it bloody doesn't. Because previously it faced 10.3s and what should be 10.7s, but we'll get to that in a moment. Of course, it is in a bracket or in a commonly up-tiered position. Of course it's going to have shit statistics. But Gaijin fails to realize and fails to adjust for the fact that the Lightning is a victim of battle rating compression. And I said this when the Lightning came out, and it still remains true to this fucking day. And Gaijin has done nothing. So, moving on to the next one. Ground forces were recently extended to 10.7. Basically, they said, why can't aircraft do it as well? And Gaijin said, and I quote, in short, when it becomes necessary and possible. I'm lost. I'm genuinely lost when it comes to battle rating decompression. The F100 in the American tree is apparently fine. The F104 and the Su-7 getting clubbed by MiG-21s and Phantoms, apparently that's fine. These types of decisions, combine them and you can understand why me as a player gets ridiculously frustrated with stuff like this. Not only that, but hey, at least for me, I can request a vehicle from a certain tree and I don't have to grind it. You guys, the majority of the player base at least, has to grind out a tree. They have to spend time, effort, perhaps money to grind out a vehicle or for it to become invalid in a couple of swift decisions by Gaijin. Now, for me, it is already, as it is, extremely frustrating because 9.7 to 8.7 used to be really good, minus the F104. In fact, before the Starfighters patch, it was actually really, really good. The Starfighters patch ruined it with the F104 and the Su-7B, and then decided to change out the problem for the Lightning F6, leaving absolutely no other tech tree with any way to combat it in this BR range. Even at 9.7. There is no other 9.7 that compares, and the one solution, the only necessary course of action that Gaijin needs to take is to extend the BRs. Yet they can't put 2 and 2 together and find it within themselves to increase the battle ratings by 0.4. I don't understand why. There is literally no reason. It doesn't make sense. Gaijin could simply kill 2 birds here with 1 stone. They could put the MiG-21, SMT, and MF at 10.7. They can put the Phantoms at 10.7. Maybe the F4C, no. But to truth be told, I have not played that plane in a very long time. I can't remember what it is like to fly in the modern meta. Anyway, the Mirage J35 at 10.7. Anything basically with AIM-9 P3s or AIM-9... is it the M9J? The M9J. So the RB-24Js are basically M9P3s, which is what I'm getting at. Anyway, that's beside the point. Anything with those really good missiles or ridiculous performance, 10.7. All the starfighters that have ridiculous performance, like the F-104G and basically equivalents, should all go at 10.3 next. Probably with the Phantom. Now, the MiG-21S, the MiG-21F could probably go there. And then you've got stuff like the T2. Now, the T2 is a really good plane. It just doesn't have great technologies when it comes to missiles. As for the computer that comes with it, like the lead indicator, that still makes the plane really effective. And you might be seeing background footage as we speak. 10.3, all the MiG-19s. MiG-19 PT, MiG-19S. 10.0, the rest of the starfighters, the Lightning F6, the Hunter F6. And of course, the F-100s. That's how you get a good, nice battle rating spread. It is literally one step. One single step. And that puts the Lightning F6 away from MiG-15 bis, Sabres without missiles. There are certain things that you should not be facing in a Lightning F6, and those two jets are one of them. Or one set, I suppose. It just blows my mind how this simple solution could fix so much of our issues with the battle rating system, and yet Gaijin's like, when it becomes necessary and possible. They always say they're cautious, which is fine, which is, of course, there are some risks with increasing the waiting times, but honestly, the waiting times in jets have been fine. They've been fairly good. In fact, it's probably down to some of the premium planes because people are grinding out jets and grinding out their tech trees at this battle rating. So imagine someone's playing the game. They really enjoy it. Maybe they get to tier 4 and they're like, you know what? I want to buy myself a premium to grind out the rest. So they buy a $50 jet. They get to 8.7 or 9.3 or whatever it is that they buy. And then they realize they're up against the Lightning F6. They just can't do anything at all. And then they just leave. Well, that's fine for Gaijin because they've spent their $50 and gone. But if you think about it, a player that stays ends up spending more money than a player that just comes and goes. Think of all the people that want to collect all the event vehicles. You know, if you get someone wrapped into this game enough, they will spend a shit ton of money. I know, because I'm one of them. So, if a game ends up being really good, people will stay and people will pay. And we've known this from the beginning, yet Gaijin seems to just not get the picture. And this makes me really frustrated. It's like a dog chasing their tail. It just doesn't seem to end. If Gaijin could just increase it by 1, literally 1, that would alleviate so much pressure from that particular battle rating. And if you throw the hard lock at, I suppose, like 9.7, then you have 10.7 to 9.7, or even if you just throw it up to 10.0, and you have 10.0s versus 9.0s. The CL13, whilst it would suck going up against the Lightning, and it does suck going up against the Lightning F6, at least has something to counter it. It can outturn it, it has missiles, it has fairly decent guns, and if the Lightning F6 makes a big mistake, you never know, there might be an F-104 to come up and clean it up. At least there is a tech tree counterpart to facing it. The Su-7B is another one. If the Su-7B sits at that battle rating, sure, it's not quite as fast and quite as good as the Lightning F6. It doesn't have missiles, but it is still another tech tree counter. It's not a vehicle that is just out of the realm of facing the Lightning F6. That hard battle rating barrier is kind of nice. But I can't believe that just a fix so simple seems to be just beyond the scope of Gaijin's willingness to improve the game. It's very small compared to what you'll get out of it. You'll have those people that actually stay because they actually have a good experience, or at least a less negative experience at that top tier, yet still stay because they managed to grind out what they want, or they managed to grind out their Lightning or their F104 or their SU7 or their MiG-19 or T2 or whatever. Just enough to get them over that line. And that, at the moment, is not really cutting it at all. Something needs to be done, and this is the logical solution. It makes sense the most, yet I don't see Gaijin doing it, and at the same time, a whole bunch of planes are suffering because of it. Not only that, but the general player experience at high tier, without Lightnings, is actually fairly positive, but with Lightnings is incredibly negative. And for me, this is one of the issues I find with Gaijin introducing milestone aircraft continuously. Now, when they did it at first, with the F100 and the MiG-19, what I mean by milestone aircraft, of course, is the first Mach 1, the first Mach 2s of each nation. Things like the F100 and the MiG-19. Now, together, they went quite well. This was pre-MiG-19 buff. So the MiG-19 was actually fairly sluggish compared to what it is now. It doesn't accelerate nearly as fast. Now, when it was introduced, it was fairly balanced because there were a lot of good things about both aircraft, yet they were both counterable. They were only about very slightly further from the capabilities of each other, yet they were a full battle rating above, which was really, really positive. Now, the moment Gaijin stuffed it up was when they decided to introduce Mach 2 capable jets 0.3 battle ratings away from said aircraft, which obviously does not make sense. Now, these aircraft on the deck are only about 100 to 200 kilometers per hour faster, which you might think, alright, that kind of makes sense. But when you take it to altitude, the performance just simply runs away, and so that would warrant, logically, an extra 1.0 battle rating. And Gaijin hasn't done that. And this is the consequence of adding the flashy jets. They should have just stuck with SU7 or MiG-21F and F104 and thrown them at, say, 10.3. And we would have had another fantastic experience. But Gaijin decided that it wouldn't be a great idea, and instead to sell off the F4 and the MiG-21 at 10.3. 10.7 is the way to go, Gaijin. It needs to be done. You need to bite the bullet and give it a go. You know what? Worst comes to worst, just revert the changes. If you are seeing something so crap like that, you can just revert the changes and go, we want to experiment. And you know what? I would be fine with that, because at least you've demonstrated the ability to attempt a change for the positive. Now, I will say real quick, the changes that have been made in the past have been decent, kind of necessary, like a baby step, if you will. But something really just needs to be done a little bit more and a little bit sooner, because the F100 literally went from being pretty good against the MiG-21F and the F4C to suffering in a very short period of time. Now, of course, the game changes rapidly, and you'd kind of expect this, but you would also kind of expect Gaijin to iron out issues like that for multiple planes rather quickly, and it just has not happened. So I really, really need Gaijin to do this, because it just improves the whole quality of the game. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. For those of you that want to comment that I'm only just complaining and that's all I do, well, look, I love this game. This game is one of the best games that I've ever played, and one of the games that I've had the most fun in ever. So for me, this is more just sort of talking about a child that's disappointed me type thing, which I know from personal experience. Just kidding, of course. But realistically, games that you enjoy require stern criticism, and stern criticism is one of the only things that will sort of bring them around. Being able to criticize a game that you enjoy means that you care about its future and you care about the way it goes, and that's exactly the case for me. I really do wish this game the best, and all I'm trying to do is offer my perspective. So if you would like to do that in the comments, on the forums, take a moment before you actually comment. Give it maybe 20 minutes, go outside, get some fresh air, because that will allow you to put together a more cohesive argument, and that'll also be able to sort of relax your thoughts a little bit. It won't take away the fire in your heart, but it will certainly take away the venom from your bite. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. If you want to join Discords, support me on whatever, links are all down below. I hope you have a good day, and I'll catch you next time.